Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Erock'S Entertainment Rant podcast, as brought to you by the King for Fresh Entertainment Group. I'm your host, Erock, and today on the show, me and Matt are here to talk about episode 4 of Survivor, season 47. It has been, and arguably one of the best episodes of the season. So joining me today to talk through it all is our Survivor expert, Matt. Matt, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I am fantabulistic.
Good.
Detroit Lions won. It's Canadian Thanksgiving. I am
Yes, happy Thanksgiving
Survivor.
to you. I meant to, how did you feel about my Blackhawks taking it to your Oilers the other day?
I don't want to talk about it. I plead the fifth.
Okay. Sounds good.
I 100% plead the fifth.
Fair enough.
So yeah, we have an episode of Survivor to talk about. For those who don't know, I do that Survivor watch party. I was on the edge of my seat during that watch party. Like, I was just like, this is one of the best episodes of television I've seen in, like, God knows how long.
It was really good editing. You know, they edited it really good. You know, I was thinking about the episode before we jumped on here, and I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I wonder if some mistakes were made. But really enjoyed that that hour and a half of television.
Yeah, it was really good television. Like, that was, like I said, watching it back. Normally I have a hard time watching episodes back. And I'll give an example of an episode I had a hard time watching back. The 4th episode of last season of Survivor, 46, aka the Banu episode. Like, watching that back was a bit of a pain.
Well, it's just something that you don't want to do.
No, it was something I didn't personally want to do it. I had to do it to take the notes so we could do the podcast.
Right.
But, like, did I have to do it? No. But should I, like, so, but this one, I actually was excited to rewatch this. Like, I wanted to rewatch it sooner.
Yeah, no, great episode. Great episode. Let's dive right into it.
Yeah, I think it was the best episode of the new era. So let's dive right into my notes. The first note I got here is, yes, get over it, Saul. Because Saul is talking about the vote and how he was left out of it and how he's bummed. And he's like, I need to get over it. I'm like, yeah, but I just need to get over it. It's like, yeah, you do just need to get over it.
Yeah, I felt the same way, but I felt like he did a good job of moving on pretty quickly.
Yeah, he did.
You know, I mean, obviously nobody ever wants to be in the minority, you know, especially in a group of 5. But man, what followed in the next few minutes was just something special.
Oh, for sure. And like and I even got to here, it's a vote. Get over it, Teeny, because Teeny is just crying about how she didn't want to vote Asia off, so she voted Saul because of a close personal connection she had to Asia, even though she knew Asia for 7 days, and only real connection she had was that she knew she was a podcaster.
Right. Yeah, we'll get into Teeny's game here in a little bit. You know, now with obviously the ability of hindsight, that might have been a precursor to what we saw coming. But yeah, you just got to get over it, move on. You know, you did nothing to stop it, you know, rightfully so, because you don't want to put yourself the target on your back like Asia did, but it happened and you move on.
Exactly. And I will like to point out later in this episode, near the end, I think that maybe they might have regretted voting off Asia over Saul in that situation. But we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. And then we cut over to Gata, and as you've mentioned countless times on this podcast, they clearly have a lot of time on their hands because they're rapping. Because Sam's rapping. Sam's freestyling.
I mean, that's what you call it, then yes, that's exactly what he was doing.
It was rhyming words.
Yeah. Like, like we said, they just have a lot of time on their hands to do
Yeah.
whatever it is they do, and they obviously um what's the word I'm looking for? They didn't have a lot to show for that. Well, I guess they did. So I'm not really sure why they made it a point to show us that, but
fun boredom. Maybe they want Sam to become the next Eminem.
Yeah, or it's part of Sam being the dominant figure in this season a little bit, because that's twice now. It's very similar to Charlie with his song game last year.
True.
Where that's kind of twice they've gone to him with some kind of, I'll call it whatever. I mean, it's fine, but like if they showed it, great. If they didn't, it's really not adding to the game one way or the other. So I just wonder if it's an editing precursor.
Yeah. I would like to think so. And then we cut over to Andy and Sierra having a conversation. Andy asks Sierra what she thinks of the whole thing about Andy and her, or Sierra and Sam dating thing, and she's like, "Oh, like I'm not even worried about it. Like it's not going to get into my head." I'm like, "It sounds like it's getting to into your
It's
head a
already
little
in
bit."
your head.
Yeah, because I mean, like, how could it not? And she makes a point too. Like, why are they thinking this? Like, and that's the thing too, is like we always say, why are they thinking this? Like, you don't know the dynamics.
Correct.
You just don't. So why there's dynamics? Why you don't know the dynamics? Like, why they think that? And Sierra rightfully so thinks maybe Annika said something.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because, like you said, why would these and it's what my wife says all the time. She's like, how long are these people together at challenges that anyone on the other tribes know what's going on? She is now jumped into the camp that you and I are in of what are these huge reactions when they see who's voted off when they don't really even know these people. So I could see why Sierra and them would think that Annika put it in their head. Because how else would they know?
Yeah.
Like why would they just come up with it? Because it's two young people. Oh, they must be dating.
Yeah, it's as they said, they look like Ken and Barbie. It's like,
I mean, really?
Yeah. No, they don't.
Yeah,
I'm
really?
with you on that. No, not even a little. And then we get so Sierra takes this as an opportunity to get closer to the women, and they get their new name for their alliance, the Breadwinners.
Who do you think
did that make sense?
Who came up with that? Well, again,
Rachel.
Again, I guess we haven't seen enough of them to see, and I'm not saying it's not happening, to see the women being the dominant factors in the challenges for them. I was trying to go back and think about it, but I don't off the top of my head again, and we only see a little bit here and there, but I don't recall anything off the top of my head to be like, oh man, those women are really pulling, carrying those men around for them to come up with that nickname, but whatever.
Yeah. I mean, they come up with a weird name. Then we cut over to the Blue Tribe, whose name I've already forgotten. And Sue is crying, and then Sue starts looking for an idol and ultimately finds the idol, or finds the Beware advantage.
It just seems too easy.
It does. This one seemed a little easy.
Like, it's like all these people just happen to be finding these idols. No clues, no nothing, just all this space in the trees, and they just happen. All this place where you can hide these things.
Yeah, and they're probably looking for hours too, right? Like
I'm
I don't think
sure.
they're
I'm sure they're looking for hours, but
because I mean, what else do you have to do, right?
right. But it just seems very, I don't know. It just seems very strange
Yeah,
that, and again, it's the editing, how the editing goes.
yeah,
Um,
uh, yeah. No, I have an issue and we'll talk about it in a minute. But first, cue the paint because she goes to the thing, chops the rope, and then a whole jar falls, and it's like a bunch of paint flying everywhere that apparently looked like blood. Spoiler alert: no, it didn't.
I really liked that kind of part of the challenge though, where you know you're knocking it down and the paint just explodes over there.
Yeah, I like that too. I would say if I was in Sue's position, I just wouldn't cover it up. I would just take the out and run, and then have people just speculate, like go wash up.
Well, she tried to wash up and obviously didn't do a very good job at it.
No,
I mean, and it does seem. I feel like in this episode we didn't really get much with the blue or the yellow tribe at all. So
no.
they suspected, oh, I cut my tongue, I did this, I did that, and
Hmm.
the couple of them were like, yeah, I don't believe it, but then it was just kind of
Yeah,
dropped there.
yeah. There's a note here where I said, yeah, you should smell BS with that
Yeah,
because Tiana said like I'm smelling BS with her story. It's like yes, you should be smelling BS.
right. But
If
then
you're not smelling BS, there's something wrong.
it was just kind of dropped and never addressed again, at least not in this
Hmm.
episode.
Yeah, exactly. Not in this episode. Um, but like I said, I never would have covered it up. Like I would have just like left and washed up and then like ran to the ocean and washed up and then just left it there as is. And people
Yeah,
find it great. Like, what are you gonna like? You have to prove I did it.
right.
Like that would just create paranoia and speculation, which I'm here for. Um, what I didn't like was that this idol was now fully powered, like all the way to Final Five. How
Right
is
now
that
it's just
fair to Gabe?
right, like the first time it's this big challenge, and then the next time through, it's just like, oh, all right, cool.
It does prove my theory though that Gabe obviously played it thinking he would come back to the game as a full powered idol.
Yeah, I mean, and he wasn't wrong, obviously.
No.
Um, I don't know. I just I go like I don't understand why the first one is such this big deal, and
Hmm.
then the next time through, it's just like, oh yeah, find it,
Yeah,
good to go.
that's like I said, that was one of my first real gripes with this was that Gabe, Sam, Rome had to do all this stuff just to like extend it further. But then as soon as it's played, Sue gets it and Sue gets it like for as a full powered
Right. Yeah, I don't love
immediate
that.
idol.
I don't love that
No,
part of
make
it,
it fair for everybody.
but it is what it is.
Yeah. Like if you're gonna do that, do it at like the merge.
Yeah.
Like give him a full powered idol like right at the merge. And then we cut over to Lavo. And we get the beginning of the Rome and Saul parts of this episode, which I found to be just the funniest thing alive.
I was just trying to put myself in Saul's shoes out there. Like
Yeah.
it had to like I get what they were doing, but man, that had to be annoying.
It definitely was.
I mean, he probably just wanted to choke that guy out.
He wanted to hit. I guarantee you, he wanted to hit Rome.
Like I wanted to hit Rome. I was watching on TV. It's just like that just had to be so miserable when you're kind of down by yourself there. And
Yeah.
it wasn't like it was Teeny following him around or someone else who you could like you have the most annoying person
Mm-hmm.
following you
Alive.
around
Yeah.
nonstop.
Yeah. You have Rome consistently following you around. And this was hilarious because Saul's like, what the hell is going on here? Like, and then you get, for all the crap Rome was taking for being like the quote unquote villain of this episode, Keyshawn wasn't much better. Keyshawn was being evil too. Because he was like, I want them to do it. Like, I'm going to encourage this.
Well,
Like, I'm
yeah,
going to
I
encourage
mean,
him to do this.
he kind of knew at least what he was trying to do, you know, and deflect to somebody else, and it almost worked. But yeah, I mean, I understand what he was trying to do. You know, like he was trying to he was thinking he could stir up the pot and not have any of it come back to him.
And that's a
And it
mistake.
almost worked.
Yeah. Almost worked. We'll get to
Almost worked. I mean, we'll
get
see.
to it almost not working.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, we'll see at the end of the day if the right decision, you know, we'll see in a couple weeks if the right decision was made.
Yeah, exactly. I'm telling you right now, I don't think it was. But, and then we get Teeny breaking the fourth wall a little bit because they have their Keyshawn and Rome fighting. Like, can I have a minute? No, no, Saul, Saul and Rome fighting. And Saul's like, can I have a minute? No, Saul, you can't have a minute. This is Survivor, man. You don't get a minute. I'm going to follow you. Okay, fine. Can I just go sit on the beach by myself? Fine. I'm going to go sit on the beach beside you. Okay, whatever, man. And then we had Teeny look at the camera like,
Yeah, it was like being an episode of The Office.
yeah, like she had her Jim Halpert look. Like,
right. Like breaking down that fourth wall and looking at the camera.
I mean, I feel like if I was on Survivor, I'd be breaking the fourth wall every chance I got.
Right.
like just look at the camera like the camera is my best friend. And then we cut over to Gata and we see a little bit of Andy losing his shot in the dark. And Andy being like the survivor, as Sam calls it, the survivor George Costanza.
Which I think was spot on.
I got here, Sam, with a good comparison on Andy. Like, I feel like that was just spot on. And then Andy has a conversation with Sierra, which leads to her revealing the breadwinners. He goes and tells Sam. Then Sam's upset with Sierra about it. And I got here, Sam, you just need to chill out.
Yeah, I mean, I think his reaction, like, I understand his reaction. I think it makes sense. But yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, I don't know why you're telling Andy.
Yeah, what Sierra's telling Andy? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, maybe because I think there's more to the Andy-Sierra relationship than we're seeing. I think she actually fully trusts him as much as Sam does.
I agree, because I think she feels like she can control him. Like, he's at her beck and call because he needs her more than perception-wise. He needs her more than she needs him.
Yeah, and I think also too she's trying to pull him like away from Sam a little bit to be closer to her, so that if she like Sam plays his eye for him, he's still more loyal to her than to
100%
Sam, which I'm like, all right, I'm here for. And then we get to the immunity challenge, and I'm like, immunity challenge early must be a journey.
Yep.
Like, they're not showing us the immunity challenge 30 minutes into the episode if there's no journey happening.
Yeah. No, and again, let's get through it and get to the journey, because I got thoughts there.
Yeah, for sure. And then I got here, they can hear the reward because the reward is chickens. And I always love it when they can hear the reward.
It's always fun.
And you could tell, if you can't tell by now, I'm being sarcastic. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, better yet, don't tell them the reward. Have them go and be surprised what the reward is. Like, that's what they should do.
Yeah,
they should not tell them what the reward is.
Well, I guess if you could hear it.
Yeah, exactly. Especially since they don't carry it back to camp anymore. Like it's dropped off at camp.
Right. Right. It's
So
not
why
like
does
they
the reward
carry
need
it
to be
back.
there? Yeah.
But they always do that.
Yeah, oh, for sure. So the challenge is they have to do a bunch of stuff to get keys to eventually get to a fire puzzle. That was the gist of it. I mean, it was a lot of work. Like they had to build a frame and throw a sandbag through a frame.
Right. Which
So
they
they
knocked over like once.
Yeah, it was like a do-it-yourself survivor challenge. Where you have to like make the thing that you have to throw the sandbag onto, then move a bunch of sandbags off a thing and dig for a rope. And Jeff uses the word dilly-dally. Which I was like, what are you doing, guy?
Yeah.
You want to sound like you're 90 years old?
Yeah. The whole challenge was pretty lame.
The whole challenge in general was lame. And then Lavo just can't even get a piece.
Well, it was like the same puzzle again for the most part.
Pretty much, yeah.
And, it brought some all-time hilarity of Sal being like, it's not it, Rome.
That's not it, Rome.
And he probably did that 5,000 times that they just didn't show it. But like he kept doing it. And I was laughing the whole time because
100%. Saul was just hilarious this episode.
He's like, nope, it's not. Like you could tell it didn't work. He's like, and Rome's trying to mix in. He's like, nope.
That's not it, Rome.
Nope.
No, like maybe look at it from a different perspective.
And it's funny how Rome's like sitting down in front of it like he's a 3-year-old doing like a 4-piece puzzle.
That's
like
good, yeah.
No one else is sitting down in front of it that way.
No,
And
exactly.
I don't know. I don't know how they didn't come close to getting a piece.
No, exactly.
Like there couldn't have been that many pieces that you couldn't get one.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think they may have had the right piece, but he couldn't fit it in, so he like threw it away or something. Because I agree with you. Like there was only so many pieces. Like they should have got at least one.
Right. Like just dumb luck gets you one.
Jeff Probst got one.
Right.
Granted, he probably knew which one it was, and as he was doing his apply, you think you can do this puzzle? Apply to be on Survivor.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. So, and I got your Rome always wants that role. Like Rome wants that, like hero or goat role, and I think it's gonna bite him in the ass at some point. I imagine it might bite him in the ass at some point.
I mean, I think it's going to. The question is sooner or later. It's going to be sooner or later.
Yeah, sooner or later it's going to bite him in the ass, but ultimately Lavo just gets destroyed, loses this challenge, and then they have to pick a trio to go on this journey. The Yellow Tribe picks Andy, which I thought was an interesting choice for them.
Yeah, I'm not sure that would have been the one that I would pick. But I'm not them.
No. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. And then they pick Teeny from Lavo, and they pick Caroline from the Blue Tribe.
Yeah, maybe they're just thinking if they send Andy and he loses his vote, then they could just vote him off the next time, no problem. Sure. That's probably what the big picture thinking is.
Yeah.
Not necessarily sure I agree with it, but alas, that's probably the thinking.
I would agree with that. I think that's exactly where their mindset is in thinking that. But I got you. That's an interesting trio for the journey. And then we cut the commercial. And then we come back to the age-old Survivor debate. Should you eat the chicken or should you not eat the chicken? There's 3 chickens. Eat one. Just eat a chicken.
Yep.
Sierra talks about going to a winery where she pets chickens and feeds chickens. And I'm confused as to what kind of winery this is.
Not any that are here in Illinois, I can tell you that much.
None in Edmonton either, but we don't have wineries.
I don't know many chicken at wineries that have just chickens running around.
I think that's a California thing, but even that, I don't know.
It's a great question. It's a great question.
Could be a California thing, could not. I don't know. I mean, do I want to know? Probably not, but I'm left wondering. But ultimately, I'm always going to be on the camp of just eat a chicken because they were apparently they were all hens too, so they're all going to produce eggs.
Right.
So you can kill one and still have 2 eggs a day.
Correct.
And
do hens, will they lay 1 egg a day? Like, or, obviously I'm not a hen master. But is it like guaranteed 1 a day? Or is it like maybe one day there's 2 and then you don't get another one for 4 days? Like, do we know how that works?
No idea.
Okay.
You're asking the wrong guy. I've never lived on a farm. I've never dealt with chickens. I am a city boy at heart. I will always be a city boy at heart.
Yeah, I mean,
I will never live on a farm.
No,
you're asking the wrong guy.
I'm past the age of my life that I could ever go live on a farm. So if we have any watchers or listeners who are farm people, let us know.
Yeah. Leave a comment if you're a farmer and you want to tell us about the farming. Yeah. I'd be curious. Yeah. Come on the podcast and talk to us about farming. We'll have a whole podcast. We'll do a whole Patreon podcast about farming.
Done.
So then we cut over to Lavo, and we get a little bit of Rome just being completely savage. He's talking about how he wants to steal Saul's vote, but he doesn't actually want to use this advantage. But Keyshawn's like, well, maybe if you suggest Genevieve and then ask him for his shot in the dark, like that's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, and again, now we know hindsight what happened and whatnot. But I think in theory, they had the right idea. I'm just not sure they went about it the right way. Like, they should have told Teeny before she left, don't do anything that will lose your vote. If you have an option, don't lose your vote.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute about craziness.
Because they should have been able to do what they did without you. Because so now he had 2 advantages and they've used them up in the first 7 days.
Yeah. Well, granted, the first advantage he had to use on the first,
right, he had to,
regardless.
Right, he had to. But now he's used up all this other, like, so he made a big deal of like, oh, I got this, I'm in charge. You're not really in charge anymore, my guy.
No, not if you're using them all in the first 5 seconds.
Right. I mean, you didn't even make it to, 1 at each tribal council, and I don't even think you put yourself in that much better of a spot.
No, you didn't.
Time will tell, but who knows?
Yeah. One of the things I liked was the threat or ultimatum conversation, because he's like, Saul's like, you're threatening me, Rome. Like, you're gonna steal my vote if I don't vote with you. That's threatening. Like, I'm not threatening you. It's an ultimatum. And I don't know where you land on if it was a threat or an ultimatum. I'm more in the camp of, does it really matter?
No, I mean, they're kind of the same thing. I think it was probably more of a threat, but it wasn't like I don't even know if you could say it wasn't a negative. Like, it was a harmless threat.
It really was.
You know, I mean, I guess it wasn't in the sense that like Saul would be gone from the game, but like I mean, I don't even know why he put it that way. Like again, they should have, and it ended up working out, but they should have used Saul in a different way.
Agreed. They should have. And also I think, like I said, like the way I see it, like Saul, you're going home regardless. Like he's showing you this thing. He says he's going to steal your vote. Like you don't really have anything left to lose. Like just
Right.
give him your shot in the dark. Like he already says he's going to steal your vote anyways.
Or just, you know, he should have thought earlier that like, hey, like you could use me as an asset if we want to go after somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But
And yeah, and then this leads into Keyshawn being like, "Well, let's just vote off Rome." And he then talks to Genevieve, and Genevieve's on board, and then he tells Saul, like, "Hey, just so you know, we're going to vote off Rome." And at this point, I'm like channeling you here, and I'm like, "This is too good to be true."
yeah, like you knew it wasn't going to happen. Because it was just
Like, I didn't even
too.
think Saul was getting voted off at that point either.
I thought Saul was going to be the one to go just because it'd been too easy.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't.
No, clearly it wasn't. But yeah, so then we cut over to the journey, and
The dumbest
first thing,
journey ever. Like this. What are we doing?
you hate this, don't you?
I do. Like what? So they make a big deal about them on this journey just to do a stupid amulet. Number one. Number two. Why is like you should never give up your vote. Never. You're especially if you're teeny, you're going to tribal council. You have no idea what's going on back there. Like you know, you like to think you've got yourself solidified, but in this new wave game, these people are lunatics and they can't even stay together for an hour. So
I mean, you're on a tribe with Rome.
why are you cowing down to those guys who say, "Hey, I'm in trouble. I need my vote." I mean, you're just like, "You know what? Yeah, I'm good." Like, if you learn nothing, that they go after the people with these amulets as soon as they can to get, yeah, they're going to go after you guys to try and get it down to one. Who's going to get the other two out first is the question.
Yeah, you're not all going to agree on who to use it on.
Right.
Like, no matter what, I don't care in any situation. All three are not going to come in and immediately agree, hey, let's use it on this person.
Right. So why are you giving up your vote? Why?
No, and that was the thing that annoyed me. One of the first thing I got here is no one does Caroline, because Caroline said like she didn't want to go on a journey ever. It's like, yeah, nobody should want to go on a journey.
Correct.
First of all, like that's just a huge thing. Then the thing that also annoys me is great, another lose a vote. Like somebody is gonna lose their vote. Why? Why do we need to steal people's votes?
That's just as this new survivor is just to steal votes.
Yeah, and then I also got here too, Teeny, you are going to tribal. Like these two are not going to tribal. Like
right. Like they played her like a fiddle.
They really did, because neither one was budging.
Right.
And basically forced the person who's going to tribal to give up their vote, because she was like, I'm going to lose it regardless. Even if I say no, I'm going to lose it regardless. Which I also didn't like. I think it should have been like, if they all can't decide, then they just don't get the advantage.
Correct. It shouldn't have
not
been,
all
hey,
lose
you
their
got
vote.
picked, because it's not. Teeny and Caroline got picked to go on this journey. They didn't volunteer. Why are you punishing them just for going?
Exactly.
Like, that's not like, what are we doing? Again, what are we doing here?
What are we doing here indeed? Like, this is a mistake. Teeny should never have given up her vote. I feel like should have been the first thing that she did, was been like, no, I'm not doing it. Absolutely not. Somebody else give up their vote, or we're all losing our votes.
Right.
Like, pull Rome. Give them an ultimatum.
Right. It's just like, well, first off, I don't like the fact that they were all going to lose their vote anyway. Like, that's
Yeah,
just stupid.
agreed. That was stupid.
2 people got picked to go on this journey, and because of that, they're losing their vote. No, that's dumb.
Agreed.
And then I just don't understand what Teeny was thinking.
No, it was mind-boggling gameplay, to say the least. And then Teeny ultimately gives up her vote, and we reveal that these amulets are different from the other amulets because now they're hidden immunity idols.
Right.
Or they're idols. But if all three, they can only be used when all three are on the same beach, and if all three have to decide on who to play it on. So you now know right away that this amulet thing is going to come into play, and it's going to be who out of Caroline, Andy, and Teeny can get the other two out first.
Right.
Like, they're not all going to agree on who to vote off. They're just never going to do it.
Unless Rome pisses them all off enough that they pick him. But again,
yeah,
you could probably get enough people that you don't need to use it.
No, exactly. And so yeah, so they end the journey, and then they all come back to camp, and they all just immediately tell their whole tribe, what happened. What are we doing here? This is an idol that you all have to agree on who to play it on. So no, it doesn't benefit your whole tribe. It just benefits you.
Right. I mean, I guess it's because I think everybody is so suspicious of anything. That no one's going to believe them one way or the other. So they have to, I mean, I don't know. The stories, I feel like everyone feels like they're lying anyway with the stories. So they might as well come home and be honest with them. But no one knows if they're being honest with them or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Half of them aren't going to believe what they're saying anyway. So it's might as well just babble.
I would agree with that. Yeah, like you could literally go back and tell them anything, and they're gonna be skeptical, whatever it is you tell them, anyways. So you might as well just like give them some nonsense. Tell them you had to like go walk down, do a path thing, and had to do one of the ship wheels.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's anything you could say now on these journeys that won't make people suspicious of you.
I would agree with that. So we then cut back over to like Lavo, and we get Teeny revealing that she doesn't have her vote, and then Rome telling her, "Hey, we're gonna vote." Or sorry, no, Rome. Keyshawn telling her, "Hey, we're gonna vote Rome off." Me and Genevieve, and she's like, "Great, perfect." And Teeny said, "Like, oh, I love that my alliance is making plans without me even being there." Which is just like the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, Teeny's not playing a great game. I mean, I really like her as a person, but
Agreed.
I mean, early on, she strikes me as like the GOAT.
Yeah, it's seeming like that's gonna be the position she's gonna fall into.
Just drag her along.
I mean, like one of like the third place 0 vote people.
Yeah, I mean, and she might not even make that far, but that's like how it's lined up.
Yeah.
Throwing away a vote, giving up her vote. And I like her. Don't get me wrong. I think she's great. But yeah.
Yeah, that's questionable. And then Rome sets off the chain reaction of events that leads to what happens later, where Rome then is talking to Genevieve and said that, like, oh yeah, so we told Saul that you're the decoy vote. And Genevieve's like, whose idea was that? He's like, oh, it was Keyshawn's. And it was Keyshawn's idea. Like, just to be clear, in case anyone's wondering, like, was it Rome's or was it actually Keyshawn's? But what's
it was Keyshawn's idea.
Keyshawn's.
It was.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think he was just being honest with her.
Yeah. But then the light bulb goes off in Genevieve's head. Like, wait a minute. If Keyshawn's suggesting my name, that means he doesn't respect my game and thinks I'm disposable and disposable. So maybe I should flip it on him.
I think it was done too soon.
The flipping on Keyshawn?
Yeah.
That's a hot take.
Because I don't think it's not like because Sal and Rome voted together one time that Sal's automatically going to be like this Rome partner. And I'm assuming they obviously didn't tell Teeny.
No, because Teeny found out later.
So now it's basically Sal and Teeny versus Rome and
Genevieve, but I think Saul is probably closer to Genevieve than he is to Rome.
But the annoyingness of Rome.
Well, and I don't think Genevieve's that close to Rome, so maybe she might be willing to
feel like
Rome off in that situation.
I respect the move. I like it. I just felt like it was too soon. Because now then they gave up the steal a vote.
And
well,
Rome was going to play that regardless, I feel like.
Which again, foolish.
Agreed.
Because if they have Keyshawn, like, I mean, I guess Keyshawn was dead set on voting out Rome, but then I don't know. I just felt like it was too early. Like you kind of gave up a number that was with you for a wild card. And now you're I mean, Rome is Genevieve's shield. But
I always felt that way. I actually always felt that way about Rome.
My gut tells me when they get into the bigger group, Rome's going to annoy a lot of people. And 100%. He's just going to be an easy, hey, let's just get rid of this guy. Type of thing.
Yeah.
I just don't think she brought Rome and Sal together as much as I've seen on the internet where, Sal's willing. Hey, you're coming to Sal with an idea to keep him in the game.
Sure.
I'm in.
And it almost didn't work too. Cause he almost like, no, I don't want to do that.
Right.
Like I want to stick to the plan and just vote off Rome. And then, so that leads into this, my yes, Genevieve and Saul think. Cause so right away, Genevieve then goes, it has her light bulb moment. Like, I'm expendable to Keyshawn. Goes to Rome, tells Rome about this plan, that they're going to vote him off. And then says, like, we need to flip it on Keyshawn. And Rome's on board. Because obviously he's pissed that they were going to vote him off.
Right. Anyone but yourself.
Anyone but me. Then she goes to Saul. And Saul is just like, oh, but I don't want to work with Rome. Like, he was being like a little petty child in that moment.
Right.
Like,
well, I mean, right.
Rome,
and that's why I feel like it's kind of the wrong decision because so he worked with him one time. Do they really think there's a long-term partnership there? So now you kind of maybe I don't think so, but now you've kind of betrayed Teeny and you have someone who doesn't want to work with Rome. So if they keep them in the tribes, at best, next time you're 2-2.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't a bad decision. I mean, I just feel like them moving and losing all their advantages right away.
That was a mistake. I feel like they didn't need to he didn't need to steal Keyshawn's vote to make this happen.
Right. Right.
Like
Well,
why
I mean, I guess he
why
didn't
he did
trust
that.
them. It's the trust. They didn't trust
Yeah,
Sal to do it.
true.
Um, I mean, I just think, like I told you right after the episode, like these people are just too like helter skelter. Just sit back, let the game come to you, and
Mhm.
save the moves for when you need to. It was just like it was fine
Yeah.
move. It wasn't necessary to it. Did this really help them long term advance their position?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to. I might have to decline. I think that helped Genevieve's position.
Short
Like,
term,
sure, I think it might have helped her longer term. Be honest, I think
we'll see. I mean, I guess there's still so
we'll see
many
how she
people
handles.
left.
Yeah, we'll see how she handles it afterwards. Like when she talks to Teeny about what happened, be like, "Hey, well, Keyshawn was throwing my name out there, like as
Yeah,
the backup vote, like, and I wasn't cool with that. Like,
no,
'cause
right.
what if
I
Saul
I
had
didn't
an
I didn't
idol
want
and
it to
played
go
it,
like
and I'd
that.
go home?"
Right. Which I can totally get it. I mean, the name of the game is to survive.
Yeah.
But it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, it was definitely gonna be interesting. One of the things I got here too is Rome's putting in the effort because Rome, after like during the Genevieve's like talking to Saul, Rome comes up to Saul and then apologizes. Like, and whether or not he meant it, I have no idea. Like, I think that was probably a fake apology to placate
Oh,
Rome
100%.
or
No,
Saul.
it's not was not real. Was not real at all.
Like, but ultimately, like Genevieve is then saying like this plan hinges on me getting people who don't like each other to work together.
But they're not really working together. Let's
Hmm.
not really mistake that they're truly working
Yeah.
together. One vote, okay. Let's see where we're at in a couple more votes if they're really working together. Because again, both of them, anybody but me.
Hmm. Agreed.
You
Both
know,
were in complete self-preservation mode.
right. And Sal's now, hey, maybe we merge. Then I can
Yeah.
like get away from these people, tell them Rome's the most annoying person in the world, and
Yeah.
he's gone. Like, I feel like keeping Sal in the game is dangerous because he
Hmm.
is the biggest flip risk. Rightfully
100%.
so. Rightfully
Yeah.
so.
Rightfully
Out
so. Yeah, I would agree with that. And then we go into tribal council, and then we get Rome. I got here. Rome's not wrong because Jeff is talking to Rome about like, well, they tell him about the fight that happened and say like, well, like it's not like Saul didn't vote for me. And in this moment, I'm like, yeah, it's not. He's not wrong for like doing this like ultimatum threat. He's not the first person in Survivor to ever think of this.
no,
Like I
no,
feel like
he's
we
not
have
going to be
all
the
talked
last.
about that.
That's why the shot in the darks are stupid.
Agreed.
You know,
The
so
shot in the dark is one of
right.
the dumbest things I've ever
He's
seen in
not the
Survivor.
first. He's not the last. Like, this is all a product of what's in front of them in the game.
Hmm. Yeah.
He knows that this guy has a shot in the dark. He's got to try and neutralize
Hmm.
him. He wasn't.
Exactly.
He wasn't overly aggressive. He wasn't truly threatening him. He was again trying to preserve himself.
Exactly. Yeah. He just didn't want there to be a scenario where Saul plays his shot in the dark, saves himself, and then he has to like he could get voted off in that
Right.
scenario.
He did what
Yeah.
he was doing what he had to do in the way that he
Yeah.
saw possible.
And I don't think like I know they said like, oh, Rome's like the villain, Rome's the villain. I don't think that was very villainous.
No, but we always
Like,
got to put a label on something and
yeah.
somebody.
Hmm.
Um, when you're an aggressive player, you
Hmm.
become the villain,
Agreed.
or you get labeled as the villain.
Yeah, you get labeled as it. Like I wouldn't go so far as say he was the villain.
Yeah,
Um, I'll never call him a villain because I don't think he was being that villainous. I think, like I said, I think Keyshawn was more of the villain this episode than he was because Keyshawn was actively trying to like cause all this tension.
yeah.
and was actively going out to like do all this, and then laughing with Teeny after like, I don't think any of us are gonna be voted. Like nobody's
Yeah.
thinking about us.
Yeah. I mean, I would even call that like villainous. It was just like, I know what you're saying.
Hubris.
Yeah. But we got to throw labels on stuff.
Agreed. Unfortunately, we do, and that's upsetting, but is what it is. And so then we get to some more like the tribal stuff where we get the threat versus ultimatum, which is like I said, just annoying. And then Keyshawn, who's just like not handling any of this really that well because he's like it seems like he was like so overconfident during like answering Jeff's questions, like, oh yeah, like I'm good. Like I trust the people I trust. Like I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah. Well,
Like and then we get the boom moment where like Jeff says, it's time to vote. Rome gets up to play his steal vote advantage, and he's like, I trust the people I trust, and I'm stealing Keyshawn's vote. And then we see the jaws on the floor with Teeny and Keyshawn, like, what?
it was kind of funny. That was kind of funny. I mean, for them to go get him, they made sure to go get him. I mean, that was, I mean, I think they used it kind of early, but they made sure that they went and got him and solidified their advantage.
Yes. And then Rome, this whole time, was stone faced. Like he was looking straight ahead. He wasn't looking at Keyshawn. He wasn't looking at Teeny. Like he wasn't trying to like be like give him an explanation because like I don't owe you guys an explanation. Right. My advantage, I'll use it how I want.
I wouldn't give them an explanation until you have to.
Yeah, and he was stone faced, and then Saul ultimately decides not to use his shot in the dark, which he said he was going to, but then he didn't.
Well, then by that point he knew what was going on because they obviously told him.
Yeah, he knew. He knew, and obviously he didn't steal his vote, so does it really matter who?
Which again is if they had the 3 votes, they should have just kept the steal a vote.
Yeah, exactly. But again, they don't know if Saul's gonna do it, right?
Right. And they don't know what's
going on. Then it's a 2-2 tie. Yeah, exactly. I feel like they kind of had to do it at that point because it's like you don't know because Keyshawn and Saul could have just both voted Rome.
Right.
And then Rome and
Jen. Well, when you got that far down the run, you got that far down the line, they had no choice.
I mean, and true, that could also have spooked Saul into playing his shot in the dark if they didn't use it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Saul didn't really know if they were just telling him to vote for Keyshawn to get them off this, get them off the scent. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, we will see what happens.
And as soon as that happened, I knew that Keyshawn was going because I'm like, yeah, all that to still vote Saul off anyways wouldn't have made any sense. Like, so I knew in that moment Keyshawn's going home.
No, right. Especially since like they had made a point of showing Keyshawn and the Genevieve stuff and Rome telling Genevieve like he wasn't going to steal Keyshawn's vote. Why would you steal someone's vote to vote for somebody else?
Doesn't make sense. No, exactly. So, but then the votes come in and it's 4-0 vote for Keyshawn to go home, and Keyshawn is so bitter. He looks at Genevieve's like, I trusted you. We could have been a 3. Yeah, you trusted her, but you made her the decoy vote. Next time, make yourself the decoy vote, buddy.
Right.
Like, and that's the thing too that I didn't like was I don't like the whole like, oh, like if you're like, I don't want the decoy vote to be me. Like, let's make the decoy vote somebody else. Like, no, make the decoy vote yourself so the person still trusts you.
Right. Right.
Like, you can use me as a decoy vote all you want as long as I don't end up accidentally going home.
As long as
which is always a risk, but
the votes against me.
Yeah. Like it's always a risk, but we know. And then Keyshawn says, and then Teeny says to Genevieve, why? And I asked if you have an answer to this question. Why? Because you voted off Asia. If you had voted off Saul instead of Asia, I don't think Asia would have done what Saul did in this.
No, but Asia probably would have been the next one anyway.
Yeah, true. None of this would have happened though.
No, probably not. But
like Keyshawn's still in the game in this situation.
Yeah,
but it really is your own fault.
It is. It definitely is. There's just so much going on with like everything. There's no. They don't know how to just let the game come to them. It's then you get someone like Rome who's so hyper, or I think that's where the other two tribes are doing better right now, where they're just kind of letting the game come to them a little bit.
Yeah.
Where the red team has the neurotic, crazy person in Rome who's just going.
Yeah. And Andy was kind of like that at the beginning with Gata, but he's toned down.
Yeah.
A lot
he's
since
definitely
then.
toned down a little bit.
Just a little bit.
But it's just let the game come to you.
Yeah. And then we get the next time on and Jeff says there's a new twist.
Very curious.
New twist. Who dis?
Very curious what this is going to be.
I don't know. I saw photos on one of those players' Instagrams that had showed each tribe combined into two separate teams.
Okay.
It was hang on, let me see if I can find it actually. Because it was on Sierra's post. Where was it?
So maybe they go
down. They're drawing rocks.
Okay.
And there's a photo here of a blue bandanas. And they're all wearing blue bandanas, and it's Anika, Sierra, Andy, Saul, Genevieve, and Rome. Oh, and Gabe.
So maybe do they go down to two tribes?
No, because this is weird because they're showing them. There's another photo on her thing of all three of them, all three tribes, doing a challenge together. So I don't know what the hell is going on. I'm very curious.
All right, I'm looking at. Okay, I'm looking at Sierra's Instagram right now. Okay, I see them all drawing rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, oops, hang on. I went way too far.
Yeah, first photo is them throwing rocks, and then it's Rome, Gabe, Genevieve, Anika, Sierra, Saul, and Andy.
Huh. And then it's back to all three tribes doing. So obviously the first one where they're on the teams must be the reward challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one when they're back in their teams is the immunity challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know what this new twist is all about. I'm excited to see what this new twist is all about. But yeah, so that was the episode. And like I said, maybe not, but this could easily have been one of the best episodes of the new era.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a good episode. Definitely a good episode.
It was for sure a great episode. In my mind, I liked it. And as far as Draft Watch is concerned, you've now lost your second player in Keyshawn, who was your 9th pick, so it doesn't really affect you that much because it was the last pick. I would just like to point out that I still have not lost anyone on my draft with my other two people, my Kayla and my other friend draft. I have not lost anybody, so
good work.
Yay, Eric, because I didn't have Keyshawn on my team. And now without further ado, it's time to award this week's Fricka Fresh Award. I don't think this is a contest.
Yeah, I mean, this one's easy.
Do you want to say it together?
Sure.
1, 2, 3.
Stop.
Genevieve.
No, Genevieve. Yeah, no, Genevieve is by far the winner of this week's Fricka Fresh Award. It's
Go ahead.
not even a contest. I mean,
No,
this is probably the easiest one we'll pick.
Yeah, this wasn't even a contest. I feel like right out of the gates we knew this was who it was going to be. This leads into one of the things I said on a Facebook comment was I was upset about I'm upset at the production team and the editors team that Genevieve was abandoned for like a whole episode.
Well, now I'm curious to see her edit moving forward.
Agreed.
You know, is this her? Like, I think we'll get a good
coming out party.
I think we'll get a good idea of what happens to the Red Tribe in the next episode or two, because was this just one thing and then they get picked off again, or does this then lead into her being a like factor? Because I'm starting to think of like, all right, when they all get together, who's going to go with who?
Yeah.
You know, is it more likely that Yellow and Blue would go together? Like, will Sam and is it Kyle, the one that looks like Ian? Is that his name?
Kyle, yeah.
Like, will Sam, Kyle, and Gabe kind of all come together? Will it, will Genevieve go with the breadwinners? Or like, will they not go with, but will they?
Yeah, will they all like team up?
I'm very curious. I mean, because it doesn't really make a lot of sense that Genevieve, we didn't even know who she was until last week. And then this week, she plays such a prominent role in how, who went home. So where does that take us is the question.
Yeah, exactly. You had no idea who she was. Like, we had to
literally
like pull up a picture to show you who she was.
14 days ago when we did this, I had to look up what she looked like.
Yeah. And now here she is, Fricka Fresh Award winner, like the main figurehead of this episode.
Right. So I'm very curious to see where it goes from here. Is this the start of her being more as a player as the season goes on? Or was this just a, hey, this was her one-off moment in the sun? They're now, Red's going to get Red's going to spiral and they're going to start picking each other. Like, they're going to have no choice. But, I hope they don't merge, because now we're at 14 left?
Yeah,
so
14.
Really, after this episode is the traditional 6-on-6 and 1, which I'd love for them to just play it out for a while.
Agreed. I would like to see them stick this out for a little bit longer.
Yeah. Maybe till you get down to 2 people on one tribe. And, unless you get down to, 3-3-3 or 3-3-4, but don't do this stupid merge when it's going to be at worst 4-4-5.
Yeah, my biggest fear is that they're doing it next week.
Right. Well,
like, that's the
blueprint
twist.
That's what the blueprint's been.
Like, no, but I mean, they're doing it now, like at Final 14 instead of.
I don't think so. Just based on the pictures you see, I don't think that's the case, because you still see them in the immunity challenge
format.
But like, I mean, at worst, you're going to be at. I mean, if Red loses again, then you're at 5-5-3. Like, let it go. Let it go one more. Let it go 2 more and see what happens.
I would agree with that. I'm down for that. Will they do that? Probably
not.
No, they are loving this thing, even though nobody else is.
Right. So we'll see. We'll see. Like this, I mean, it looked like there was trouble in Blue when they were yelling at each other, which makes me feel like Blue is not going to lose, because anytime they tee it off that way, that team usually doesn't lose.
Agreed. I'd like to see Yellow lose again, just to see like
Yeah, just to kind of see where they go. I mean, I'd like to see blue or yellow lose again just to see where they go.
Exactly.
Because there's so many different possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we don't know anything about Caroline at all.
Not really, no.
You know,
Other than she's from Chicago.
right? And has a third of an amulet.
Yeah.
You know, um,
We don't really know even that much about Tiana, too.
no,
Like,
no,
and like to some degree, we know way too much about Sue. We really don't know much about Kyle. On the Yellow Tribe, we don't know much about Rachel and Annika that much.
right,
Like, we don't know. We know quite a bit about Sierra and quite a bit about Sam and quite a bit about Andy, and the Red Tribe. We know way more than we need to know about all four of them left.
right. So I
Like,
wonder if that means like you get a red and yellow and they just pick off blue. But Sue stays around because she's the older one, perceived weakest. So you get your final
mhm.
8, 7, 8 out of those folks.
Yeah,
We'll
maybe.
see. We will
Yeah,
see.
it's gonna be interesting to see how things play out
Yeah, definitely
for this
will.
season. Do you have any final thoughts on the episode or any final thoughts on just Survivor in general?
No, I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
We did. And like I said, this was a great episode of television, and we're very excited to be live for it to talk about it.
100%.
Um, as I said, this would have been. I feel like doing this pre-recorded wouldn't have packed the same punch
Agree.
as a live recording of the podcast. So, shall we discuss things that are coming down the pike?
We can. Do we want to interview our interviewee this Thursday?
We can discuss that later
Okay. So
if you
fire
want
off
to.
what you got coming down the pike. I
So,
know got
yes,
the challenge.
we got challenge coming out tomorrow. We got that recording tomorrow, and that'll be out tomorrow. Wednesday is Survivor Watch Party Day, as I'll be live on Twitch to talk about Survivor. Tommy will also be live on Twitter to live tweet the episode of the challenge.
Yeah. See, doing the
Well,
challenge and Survivor at the same time just
is
makes it very
stupid, and I
hard.
don't like it.
It just makes it very hard for me to even watch both of them in the same night.
Thankfully, I don't have that problem. I just watch challenge the next day regardless because I have it
Yeah.
on streaming service, so I can just stream and don't have to go through any ads and stuff, which is
I
always
like
a
it.
bonus. And then also as I mentioned on the Big Brother podcast, that we on Thursday there'll be the Traders Canada video podcast with me watching the Traders Canada. That season's been in full swing, and I'm going to be watching that new episode right after we're done this, or 20 minutes after we're done this, because it's recording now on my TV. And then also we have the Patreons live, so feel free to become a patron and support us as we embark on patron only videos, which I'll only do once we get patrons.
Which makes
People
sense.
become patrons.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense.
Yes. So that is everything that is coming down the pike for us. And there may or may not be a Frick Fresh interview coming up very soon.
So is Big Brother over now?
Yes, Big Brother is officially over now.
Okay, great.
That ended yesterday.
Okay.
And so that was the last Big Brother podcast. Because I bet you're wondering like why I wasn't mentioning anything about Big Brother.
Good season?
It was. I liked it. I made it through the whole season, which is more than I could say about last season. Last season I stopped at final 8.
Okay. Well then that's definitely
so
an
it's definitely
improvement.
a plus.
Yeah.
That I was able to talk about the entirety of the season. I feel like last season had because it was 100 days and it was just boring and predictable. And I mentioned this at the end of my other podcast. But Big Brother, that season, Big Brother did the impossible. They made me root for Suri. Like actively root for Suri to win because it was getting so predictable. And I was like, I kind of I'm rooting for Suri. So it did the impossible.
Huh.
Something that I didn't think would ever be a thing.
Well, it's good. It's good to get yourself surprised every once in a while.
I would agree with that. But yes, so that is everything that is coming down the pike for us. Matt, as always, thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It was great having you here to talk about the episodes. And thank you guys so much for listening. As always, you could be anywhere in the world and you're choosing to be here with us, and we appreciate you and we love you for it.
We do.
And become patrons. And without further ado, that's where we leave you. If ever we were to leave you, it wouldn't be in summer. Because Survivor's not on in summer. So goodbye, farewell, and I finally found the end stream button. So here we go.